signs. All right, good evening, everybody. At this time, if you're able to, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, good evening and thank you, everybody. At this time, we will open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor. If anyone would like to address the board, please just state your name and your address. And please adhere to the 5-minute board policy. All right, so we will close the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Remind everybody that we do have one at the end of the meeting if you think of anything you want to ask us. So at this time, we will turn it over to our friends at Learning Leaps for their presentation.
Thank you for letting me present tonight. I'm Rachel Ciatoli. If you don't know me, I am elementary music teacher by school year and intern by summer. Tom Van Gelder couldn't be with us tonight, but I'm so thankful for him taking me on as an intern this summer. It's been a wonderful experience. As you can see from the front slide, they're so happy. It's been a wonderful program. They were very sad to leave us last Thursday. It's a 4-week program. And I'll kind of go into more of the specifics, but we started right after ESY in July, and like I said, we just ended last Thursday. So this is the Learning Leaps mission statement that we handed out to teachers as part of the teaching handbook. So the purpose of our summer program is to provide each student with an opportunity to review and enhance skills learned during last school year. This year, each classroom will develop lessons and activities around Scotia-Glenville's prioritized standards in English language arts. And the theme of this year's program was soaring into summer. So planes, air balloons, birds, anything having to do with that. So that was the direction that teachers had when they ordered their supplies, is to center that around our theme. This also comes from our handbook. So our Learning Leaps purpose. The Learning Leaps summer program is different from the regular school year. The program is condensed into 4 weeks, 3 hours a day, and runs Monday through Thursday. Additionally, the students are coming from all over the district and may not be in their regular elementary building or with teachers or classmates that they know. The Learning Leaps program is based on English language arts priority standards, and the methods of instruction varied to increase the success of these students. The goal is to help our students maintain their Spring, Fountainist, and Pinnell, or F&P level, or to help them advance. And F&P levels have to do on the, we'll see on the incoming slide, where they are based on their grade level. So this year our program was held with ESY at Lincoln Elementary. So we were one nice big happy family, and it was really nice to all be together. So these are F&P scores. So you can see a bracketed region for each grade level. It goes on to 6, 7 through 8 in high school. So like I said, our goal is to keep them wherever they ended at the end of the year. Those 4 weeks are that stopgap that usually happens during the summer where there's some attrition. So if you're a student that's sort of at the end of, let's say, grade 1, you might be a level F. That attrition could be 1 or 2 marks down, actually putting you back in that kindergarten reading level. So when you start back, when you go up into, for grade 2, then you're kind of even farther behind. So this is going to help, this program is help keep those students right where they are, or hopefully advance. We will see with our next set of F&P scores. So as far as data examples, our program's been running for about 2 years. I was not with Learning Leaps last year. So it was more limited data that was available for comparison for students who attended last year's Learning Leaps 2022 program. Tom Van Gelder was running that program last year. But the data I was able to find combing through the things that I did, it was very significant. So The students who attended the Learning Leaps 2022 summer program were able to maintain their F&P level from spring of 2022, and it did help those students to bridge the learning gap of the summer break. The exemplar students on the next slide that were invited to the Learning Leaps program in 2022 but didn't attend, those examples that I found, they dropped at least one F&P level from their spring 2022 F&P scores. Now, going into next year, we'll have a more broad idea because now we have the basis to really do that data analysis going into next year. But I think it was significant enough for us to take a look at. So, for example, student 1, they came to us at a D, level D, they stayed at a level D. Student 2 came to us at an S, they stayed at an S. Students, and this will be talked about in another slide, but students are invited to the program if they have received AIS or RTI services. So these students are invited, they're not required to attend. They're just kind of given the benefits of the program if they'd like to attend. So these are students that, for whatever reason, their families chose not to attend, and you can see student 1 dropped 1 level and student 2 dropped a couple more levels. So it really is, again, that stopgap of just practicing skills, just like we all need. Practice makes better, not perfect, but it definitely helps us to move forward. So our program is not only growing as far as the data we've received, but we're also growing in numbers of students, thereby being able to add some more staff. We actually opened up into a second first grade classroom this year. And it was because we just wanted to provide it to as many students as possible. We did cap each of the classes at 12. Once we go beyond that limit, especially for kindergarten, even with a teacher and TA in there, it sort of defeats the purpose of the program to provide that specialized service. And I know you have the access to this presentation. You can see the sample letter that's actually sent out to families. It offers them transportation for the summer if they need transportation. These letters come out in May with sign-up information. So it was a little bit before I was involved with the program, but I did see a sample of the letters. So our program goals are to include as many students as possible to cover the gap in reading skill practice that often occurs during the summer months. Students and families are excited to return to the program each day. They're engaged by the variety of reading activities provided by the staff in connection with our Soaring into Summer theme. And we actually had students from last year that were really bummed out that they actually improved so much they couldn't return to us. So that's a good sign. That's a good problem to have. As far as assessment goes, there's not a formal assessment attached to this program. I wanted to use this slide to show examples of some of the things that we are assessing. These are reading skills that they're using to do projects. You know, it's things that are functional for them. So teachers do provide us a weekly newsletter, and it's based on the work that they have students complete in their classroom. So it helps us to ensure that the ELA standards are being met each week, and it's a great way for the teachers to summarize learning, not only for us, but for families. So we get an idea of where they're going each week. And again, you have this slide, so I threw in a couple of weekly newsletters from the first week, just so you could see how they introduce families to our program. It was really great. It's easy to read, but they also are sending home a lot of materials with them as well. So as we start to think about moving forward, the goal is to use the fall 2023 F&P testing that happens every single school year to actually collect the data. So they will know right away which students need to be identified, and I will follow through with that to collect the data that we need. And just kind of as a basis, we would love to see the Learning Leaps program become a permanent part of our summer instruction. We really believe that this instruction is helping our students through the reading gap, not only of this summer, but in the wake of COVID. COVID, I know, as far as those baseline skills for a lot of our little friends, that was a tough hit, and these kind of programs are helping them retain the things that have already taken them a little while to get to. So here comes the fun part. We had a really awesome end of program activity. I know we had some visitors stop down. One thing that I had suggested was that we pair up our older classes with our littler classes. They were just absolutely thrilled to be working together. And then we also had reached out just to use a popcorn machine, and our friends from the PTA actually popped us so much popcorn. So we had little stations that had to do with our airplane theme. So they got to paint a plane. There was a foam plane contest. We still have some stuck outside in the tree at Lincoln. If you want to go look at them, we couldn't get them out. We had stomp rockets that also got stuck in the tree, but they were very cool. They each got a little gift bag with some goodies to bring home, and then we had a snack and water station. That was just sort of their last chance to play on the playground. So I absolutely love pictures. There is some on the Facebook page, but these are pictures of all of our groups having fun together. So we were able to use the nice shady parts of the Lincoln lawn. They have a great lawn out front. And I would be remiss if I did not mention all of these wonderful people who came to work as our staff this year. So for kindergarten, we had Sarah Appel and Amy Puglisi, our 2 first grade sections. One was Brooke Heath and Cheryl Borwick. And then Maggie Smonsky, who actually came to us from Guilderland, and Melissa Lynch. Second grade was Laura McLear and Winnie Valkovic, and Winnie also helped to do some of our subbing for us. For third grade, we had Alexis McCarthy, Jen Singh, and an interpreter, Leah Clem. For fourth grade, we had Brooke Haviland, who I believe was with us last year, and Erin Hoffman. And for fifth grade, we had Mac Tierney and Brian Vopel. We actually had a secretary this year, which is extremely helpful with the volume of students that we had. We were able to have a nurse, Tom, and myself. So we had a pretty large staff and a lot of resources to help students. And as a last, I just want to thank a few people, especially the transportation department, for really safely transporting our students. We had a lot of people from all over the place. They offered transportation to our families, and I know it was a big job. Rotary provided us with some awesome snacks. Our students were so excited to have those little snacks every day. Sharon Riggy and Bob Melia at the district office for organizing and supporting a district-wide program as we all learned our way through the Learning Leaps program. And of course, our Scotia-Glenville families for continuing to attend our Learning Leaps program. And a special thank you to Lincoln for housing us this year. And with that, does anybody have any questions you feel I could answer for you?
No, but I want to say thank you for the program because I heard wonderful things from our parents. The kids had a great time. I was there picking up every day, and the kids come out so happy, and it's just nice to see them enjoying learning. So.
Oh, I'm really glad.
I was curious as to, and you may not have this information, how many were invited versus the 68 that came, and have there been discussions of closing that gap between the two?
I would have to take a look. It's information I can get you. I do have the whole master invite list, but it is quite a few. We actually still had some kids on waiting lists, and I think it's because the staffing, we could only provide so many sections, but I can definitely get you that information.
Thank you. If you would share it with me, Rachel. I'll
Absolutely.
share it with all the board members. Thanks. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions, comments?
Nicely done.
All right, thank
very
you.
much. All right, at this point, I will turn it over to Superintendent Schwartz for her comments.
So we're going to make just a slight adjustment here. I have brought to you what I understood from our discussion about board goals. What I haven't brought to you is the final presentation schedule, so I will put that in your next packet. We're in pretty good shape. We probably have, once again, more things we'd like to talk about than we might necessarily have time for. As I said on the goals document, based on our discussions, I tried to fill out the template for SMART goals so that you could see what, again, in my thoughts, my thinking as I was working through this, were goals that we don't have, haven't gotten firm enough about. So, Mr. President, I would say to you, we could either ask people to go away and look at these and then submit other ideas to fill those red gaps. We could do that as a conversation here. We could say we're going to do, because we are going to do the policy,
Right.
the goal with the middle school and add, I think, Kim's suggestion, also thinking about the high school, and then the community council. So I'm going to let you take over the discussion.
Thank you. So is everyone looking at or had time to review the goals section that Susan was talking about in the red and how we would accomplish the SMART goals? Does anybody have any suggestions or comments on what they would like to do besides policy? Because we know that is a definite goal for Pam to finish that hard work along with Kim.
I think we can consolidate some of these. This is maybe just a talking point to go and think about and come back later, but there's just a common theme among I think it's the last 3 or so, kind of in talking about communication and between the school and the community, and maybe we don't need 6 goals, maybe we could have 3 or 4 if we just worked on putting some of those together.
Right, so is there one that we're all in agreement with besides the policy?
May I ask a quick question?
Please.
Susan, can you tell me what the acronym SECP and WEB is on the second one?
Where Everyone Belongs is WEB, which is the middle school's initiative coming out of their school comprehensive education plan. We had found ourselves on a list through SED, both as a district and the middle school. After 2 years of working very closely with Cap Region BOCES on a number of initiatives here, we're technically off the list. We are no longer, the sad part about being off the list is that we're not getting money because being on the list brought you state funding. And now that we're not on the list, we don't have the state funding. But there are things we want to continue with. So as we wrapped up with Laura McDaniels in terms of the school's comprehensive education program, one of the things that had come out of that was this new effort called Where Everyone Belongs. So 6th graders will be here, I think, on August
31st.
Thank you.
I was 6th grade.
For a day of activities and team building and all kinds of things. So not just a standard walkthrough, but there will be staff here working with them. That's the beginning of Where Everyone Belongs. The middle school continues to be recognized as a school that's met the criterion for No Place for Hate. So this is their 9th year. And I realize that certainly the community, there may be some in the community who don't think that aligns with what they see, hear, or think about what goes on. So we're trying to find some ways to bridge those two things. These are the actual efforts that we've started with, continued with, and what we're adding to them. So that was a long answer to what's up in web. To Emily's point, when I look at the draft goal for social emotional learning information to families, staff, etc., I could see that very easily fitting under the community council piece. And
I think that would go well together.
once I have the charge for that group, because I wouldn't have a group that we didn't know what we were asking them to do, that could certainly be something that group helped facilitate. Again, there are things that we do fairly routinely with staff. So for example, many people are getting therapeutic crisis intervention training over the next 4 days. So for some people it's a refresher, for some people it is the full 4 days of training, which is all about de-escalation techniques and how to interact with children. So I do think there are things that are happening, and we can offer that as, for example, coming to learn about those things as parent nights. I know Mr. Talbot had reached out to the mayor, Bucciafero, town councilman Ketzel, and both police chiefs. Certainly there could be some things we do there. But I could actually see that as subsumed or becoming part of that goal. To Emily's point.
That was my big one, so I think that would be a good one to put together because then you're involving other avenues to serve, not just putting it all in one basket.
Correct.
Because we were looking for other avenues. How do we bring in, you know, people to do forums and stuff like? Because we don't hold forums, but other people could hold it. But that would be a good place to combine it together.
And my goal is to have at least 1 or 2 high school students on the superintendent's council. I would be, of course, always interested in hearing what they think. But also we have the results of the tangible development surveys from last year that went out to staff, community, students, that we can start with and take a look at. And we will be working with tangible developments this year. In fact, Rick and I, and except Rick doesn't know this yet, and Mr. Media are all meeting with tangible developments this week to talk about that. So with the folks who suggested that the SEL part, I would incorporate that into this goal I've put forward, which I will probably do even if you don't adopt it as a board goal, clearly, because it's my goal for me. But I think makes very logical sense given some of the things that folks want to talk about.
So who do you envision being on the superintendent's committee?
1 or 2 of my administrators, parents from each of the schools, including some who have reached out to me over our DEI challenges these past couple of years who have been looking for a way to serve. I think I had suggested that Karnjeet might join me because of something he had said at our last meeting, and a couple of students. So I don't want it so large that we can't really gather and talk to each other. But I want it large enough that it's made up of more than just school people.
Right, so could it be, to Emily's point, someone, not saying Emily to put some, but like Emily or a business owner that doesn't have kids in school?
Absolutely.
That way they can get a feel for it, because as
Absolutely.
Emily said before, sometimes a lot of non-parents don't really know what's going on without digging a little deeper to find things.
Absolutely. I would see that as not problematic at all. I would tap Kim for probably a Rotary connection. There are other groups in the community. Again, I'm trying to keep the core group to a reasonable size so we can communicate with each other. We could certainly have other folks in at other times to talk about specific topics.
And I apologize, Susan, if you said this already. What does the SCEP stand for?
The School Comprehensive Educational Plan. That's okay.
And I know I said last time that I would take the lead or make some inquiries about the Community Foundation. I admit I did not do my homework on that, but I will, absolutely.
So what are we thinking? Are we,
So,
yes, sir?
sorry, when we said hot button, was there any like particular,
I don't know and honestly, I don't remember who brought this up. So I don't know what the hot button topics are. I certainly know what people talk to me about in the community. I go back to, I wouldn't suggest a survey or a forum unless we know what we're trying to learn for a survey. And we have something that indicates to us there would be interest, like SEL, in a forum, social emotional learning. And I think given the mental health challenges throughout the state, what schools are talking about, what people are talking about, we can say with some certainty people have concerns about mental health. But I would be very cautious about a survey, and with all due respect, what I would, if the board wants to survey to discover information, then we're going to need to talk a good deal more about what it is we're trying to find out, and then we're going to have someone who designs surveys do the survey. Because, for example, to put out to people, what do you think about Scotia schools, is not a reliable survey question, because Hal might be thinking it has to do with transportation. I might be thinking it's curriculum. Rick might be thinking it's school lunch. We have to know what it is we're trying to figure out so that we can shape our questions in a way that makes sense. So I am not sure what, if we took a top secret vote right now and everybody wrote down on a sheet of paper what they think the hot button topic is, I'm not sure we'd have 2, 4, 6, 8 people who agreed.
Yeah.
Because I think it's all from where you're
A
sitting.
bit different, yeah.
So I definitely think before we get into any ideas about surveying people, we've got to figure out what it is we hope to learn through a survey so that then we can have questions shaped that will get us that information. I got thinking about this. For example, we survey people after the budget vote. Now, it's voluntary. You can answer the survey or not. I will find out where those surveys are. Bob used to put that data together for me, and I have a sinking suspicion the surveys might be sitting in a box. But those surveys will give us information, but it's a very small sample because the voting pool is a pretty small sample, and it's not everybody who voted. And I'm not sure, again, from the people who fill out the survey's perspective, if we've asked them the right questions. So, for example, one of the questions we often ask is, here's this list of 9 things. Rank order these things which you think is most important. Well, I don't know why you're ranking them the way you are.
Yeah.
So I may know that, and I don't know who you are, but if we're talking about what are my most important things versus what are Drew's most important things, and we just have this rank order piece, although that's a part of information we can take a look at, I'm not really sure what we're going to act on there. So that's my only caution about surveys. I think people think I'm opposed to surveys. I'm not opposed to surveys. I was thrilled with tangible development surveys. But they now have people who know how to develop surveys and how to ask the questions. We don't have that level of expertise. I mean, I will speak for myself. I don't have that level of expertise. So before I start asking people questions, I want to make sure that the questions are really going to get at what is this thing we're trying to find out? What is it we want to know? So we can certainly continue to talk about, if we were to survey, what are the things we're trying to find out? That would also help us recruit people who could help us develop a survey that could get to those things.
And maybe we could work on that. Maybe somebody build something towards next year's goals.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if that has to be a goal for all of us as the board, but that could be an ongoing conversation as we hear things as the school year progresses.
Yep.
The SEL, were we thinking, because I know we talked about it, putting it in a couple of different spots potentially. Oh man, this Chromebook is going to get thrown out, Joe, I tell you. Sorry.
We're going to get you a new Chromebook.
Scratch that from the record,
Yep.
Kathy. Were we looking at SEL as part of the superintendent's committee?
Yeah, I think that's what we just talked about, yeah. we were-
Okay.
Yep, so I
'cause
will
know
move
if you're
that
going
over
to.
there.
All right.
Because that can incorporate different levels, different things that maybe we
Correct.
need that we can't do
Okay.
ourselves.
Yeah, just taking notes here as we go. All right. All right, and then the
And can I
second.
just say, just
Yep.
for people that are listening, SEL is social emotional learning, so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Thank you, Kim.
So we in agreement that we would have 2 so far? with the superintendent's committee and policy.
Yeah.
And then as far as the second one that we have there, which was the board members working with Principal Cosmer and Assistant Principal Nofree
And then
for,
number 3, yeah.
yeah.
Except I do strongly want to include the high
Yes,
school
absolutely.
assistants
Yep.
in that.
Yep. Well, we could get started here and then work out and then incorporate that as absolutely.
What do you mean by get started and then go out?
Well, get started with what we had said here with the 2 board members working along with Scotia and Glenville to come up with the programs, obviously chat with the board about it, and then focus it potentially here and then as well as the other schools.
So what is the goal? This is maybe really obvious, but what is the goal of having the fall and spring assemblies? So we're assembling this group of people in conjunction with the board to achieve what larger goal? Not just having assemblies, but what was the, I know I was sitting right here when we came up with it, but what was the main idea?
I think this goes back to this idea that we sit here in a school that's been designated as a no place for hate school, which is not an easy destination to earn, where we have done many things over the last 2 years because of our school comprehensive education plan. And I think from internally, we feel like things are not perfect, we get that, but we are taking some pretty concrete steps as a district that we can point to. I think what some of you hear in the community doesn't reflect that.
Correct.
So I think it's trying to get people into a room together. So for example, I know under Where Everyone Belongs, they are also interested as part of that effort in assemblies more regularly. I just picked 2 because I know getting 2 done in a year would be pretty impressive. But they're interested in talking, I think, to hear what you're hearing and then to talk about what the options might be, which would give us that outside look in again.
I guess what I'm saying is the goal could say something like, the board will work in conjunction with the community leaders to support the efforts of SEEP and WEB.
Oh.
And then like one of the things that they do is they have the assembly. It's just reading to me that the goal is to have 2 assemblies. And I was just trying to make it a little more, I know they're supposed to be specific, but that's maybe too specific to be a goal. It's more like a task.
Wordsmith that a bit.
Okay, just an idea.
Sure.
I think what Hal was saying too before is to start that collaboration right now here in one school and then bring it to the, now that this is working, they have like what their goals are, how they're gonna do it, then bring it over to the middle, over to the high school and
See,
the
but
other schools.
I don't agree with that, because
But
that
if
seems like
you-
you're getting a slow roll when
Not
it's
really,
adding 2 more people, a principal and assistant principal from the high school to the group. And then that way you're losing out on a year of kids that could be getting this program.
I don't think it should take a year for them to figure out what they're gonna do to bring it over. I think what happens is you have 2 different levels here, right? So if you're coming up with the middle school level, like this is what we're gonna be doing here, and then saying, okay, this group is working, now we're gonna come here and do it for this level, I think that's.
Well, you've heard some of the things tonight that the high school is working on. So for example, they've worked this summer, the high school administrators, guidance counselor, teacher, on analyzing our attendance data, because that was one of the things that got our district identified was attendance. I believe the definition is children who are absent more than 10 times in a school year are determined to be chronically absent.
10% of the school year.
10%, thank you, Rick. I knew we'd get there. 10% of the school year are considered to be chronically absent. We have several children in that category. And you know I call everybody children, from the little ones to the big ones. So they are working on a number of attendance strategies this year. Again, they're working with Laura McDaniels out of Cap Region BOCES. So they talked about the 5 times tardy and the reset and those kinds of things. So it's not that things are not going on in other schools, to Kim's point. It's that when we had this initial discussion, it was very much about the middle school.
So, like we said before, we wanted to include the high school too. Just we're gonna start here, but not take the full year. Just get this what this group is going to do, have their plans in place for their SMART goal, and then take the high school and add them into that SMART goal instead of trying to create 2 at the same time. Because I think you get confused when you're trying to do 2 different levels. But that was my take on it.
So what I could do, Mr. Talbot, is I could go back and take the first goal on policy, the second goal on working, that Emily just gave me some ideas about wordsmithing that one, and then the goal about the superintendent's community council, and tweak those a little bit and send them back out to the board.
Yes, that's fine with me. I was just saying, I'm sorry.
And then you folks can take a look and tell me whether you think we've hit that. I'd be happy to do that.
So to comment on Kim's comment, so I don't fully agree with you because this has never been done before here. And with the people that I've mentioned and I've spoke to before, I don't think this is going to be a slow burn to get this going. In the conversations that I've had with them, this is something that they see, they hear, they know about, but possibly hasn't been approached from the way that we're going to approach it this year, with us being involved in something like this. And I don't disagree that take bullying that happens at every school. I get it. So the kids that were here that really didn't get talked to about it, now they're in high school, well, guess what's going to happen there? So if you could start at some place, to me, this would be the place to start, knowing where we've come, the work that the middle school team has done, but to partner with them as what we hear as a board, as a person, as a football coach. I see this in its middle school kids for the most part. So that was, when I was crafting this in my mind, that was my goal, is we need to start someplace. We can't start at 6 schools because you're going to be ineffective if you start at 6. It's like birdshot. It's going to go, and where's it going to hit? You don't really know. So my thought was we need to be focused on one area, work as a group to get this rolled out with you and with the board and with the admins and Susan, and then take that to the next step. Not ignore anybody, but if you do it on a wide scale, I don't know how effective we would be as this committee versus honing in and being specific with one area that we feel needs some assistance.
If you think it's going to be a quick timetable, then I'm good with that. I just don't want to find out we've turned around and all of a sudden we've gone through the entire school year and haven't dealt with the high school, because just like you have your experiences with football,
Yep.
I have extreme experiences with what's been going on in the high school, and I know that there's been a lot of issues there where individuals have been bullied quite extensively. So I just don't want to postpone one, hoping we get through another, and then we find out, up to your school year's done. That's all I ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we should go middle school, high school, and then down to elementary. Yeah, I think our elementary schools do a really good job on that pride and working together
I agree.
and bring it right up. Because then our middle school can get double dosed.
Emily, good? All right, good, thank you.
A+.
All right. Reports, our favorite topic. CAPSPA, back on our list. Area 7 for New York State, Kathy Lewis was re-elected for 2 years as our area representative. So her and I have already been in process of emailing to try to see if we're able to get this up. Other board presidents that I've spoke to already were re-elected to their positions and have some interest too. She's going to take it outside of the scope that I reached out to. So as soon as I have more data, but it's a slow burn with this one, sorry. Kim, anything on legislative?
I have not received any information legislative. I did a little bit of research and haven't seen anything new as of right now. Our session has ended, and as of June, so it's not surprising.
Right. And PTA?
Right now, we've just been communicating with each other, helping where we need to. For example, they just talked about the learning leaps. Also, there is a district-wide sensible play taking place at the Indian Meadows, Glenville on Saturday, August 26th from 12 to 3 p.m. at the Playground Pavilion for families whose kids would benefit from sensible play. So everybody in the district's invited and their whole families.
I think Lincoln PTA is
Beautiful.
doing kindergarten day, meet your classmates.
Oh, yes, and each of the PTAs, thank you, in the district are doing their own individual PTA kindergarten day. Glenda Morton just did one yesterday. They had to go from outdoors to indoors. Lincoln is going to be doing one. Sacandaga does one, just so all the kids can meet each other before the first day of school. It's been very successful in years past.
Kind of went back to preschool when they used to do it in preschool.
Yes.
Nothing new on audit committee? That doesn't go for a couple months yet.
October, you'll see them.
Okay. Board of Education policy, obviously, as we know, Pam has been a little under the weather, so her and Kim will get cranking up on that soon. Board of Education goals, we just went over. And budget, anything at this point besides what we're going to chat about here in a little while? No?
Oh, wait.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you. So that closes our report section.
I can't remember, when do the New York State laws come out for us to vote for before a conference? Is that mid-September we get
I think
those?
it's end of September.
The NISBA
Yeah,
resolutions?
NISBA.
I think we have like 2 weeks to look at it before we have to let them know.
Yeah, I just remember when they came in, because I was like,
All right, moving on to item number 7. If I can get a motion to adopt the district code of conduct for elementary, middle school, and senior high for 23-24.
I make a motion that we adopt the district code of conduct as submitted. I can read the whole thing. Elementary, middle school, senior high school handbooks for 2023, 2024 as submitted.
Thank you. Second?
I second.
Thank you, Kim. Any discussion?
were we able to change that his, her, that we found in the,
Yep, Principal Chris going to mention that. That's going to be, yes. Yep. So we'll make the motion in a second with the adjustment to that. Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Can I get a motion to adopt the revised 23-24 school calendar?
I move that we adopt the revised 2023-2024 school calendar.
Thank you. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions? Susan, what was advised or revised? Do we know?
Kathy's smiling because, Kathy, help me. Jill, someone. I thought it was just a cleanup.
Prom was moved one date because we had it the week on the 17th. It's now the 10th officially. There was also on the original one, the 24th of May. For those that worked 12 months, it was going to be a freebie day for all of us, but that's not the case. We need to be there. So it'll just be no classes, which means no teachers as well.
Right.
And then June 17th, I think it was listed as a Regents Day, but it's really a ratings day. So there'll be no students, but teachers will be in, and that makes sure that we have enough days in the school year.
Thank you. All in favor?
I,
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Motion to accept the fiscal report for 22-23.
Go ahead.
These two.
I'll make a motion to accept fiscal report for 2022, 2023.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Drew?
So in front of you is a packet that has a narrative and some detailed reports, and then a kind of an executive roll-up report. And what it displays is that the district had a very sound fiscal year, about $5.6 million in surplus, which is attributable to 2.7% favorable revenue and 6.5% favorable expenditures. The reason, as explained in the narrative, is that we had a significant amount of federal money this year that allowed us to supplant and supplement, so that helped a lot. So we could move such expenses as substitute teaching, supplemental administrative costs, tutoring into the grants and free up general fund money. We also had a As you know, interest rates went up 450 basis points. Haven't seen that since 2007. So our interest income was favorable by $661,000. That's quite a boost when you're budgeting historical trend there. State aid was slightly unfavorable, which is, we're pretty close to what we wanted there, which is good news. But basically, it was the interest income, and we also recouped $161,000 in some RDS subsidy money, which is retiree drug subsidy. That's Medicare money you get from the government when you have your own prescription drug plan. They incentivize you and give you money back. So we were able to go back 4 years and recoup money with a new consultant that we acquired in the changeover from Empire Blue Shield to Highmark. Didn't cost the district anything other than premium, but so it was really some fortuitous bounces on the revenue side, and the federal money, which will dry up at the end of this year, allowed us to have a really significant favorable year. So to that extent, I've asked the board tonight to approve some appropriations into the repair reserve, the tax surcharge reserve, and the TRS, which is a pension reserve. I've explained the basis for doing that, and I've asked you to give me up to an amount because we're still closing the books, and I'd like to be at that 4% or less, which is the statutory limit on unrestricted fund balance. And it puts us in a solid position going into 24-25. So with that, I'll be glad to entertain any questions. I will say I did do a presentation to a dog in my office today, and the dog pooped on my carpet, so I don't know.
I told you, I run everything by my dog first before I come here. It doesn't always go very well.
Well, besides the poop, great job.
Yeah.
Thank you, Drew. Yes, I just wanted to thank you for the detailed report. I appreciated how clear it was to be able to understand everything that was going on, so thank you.
Thank you. Susan, if it's okay, before you accept the reports, I wanted to give an update on the electric buses.
Yes.
So the district has partnered with Transpar, which is a national transportation firm. They've been in front of the board on efficiency routing, and also they did a study on electrical buses. You remember that sticker shock we saw a few months ago? But there's a grant under the EPA's Clean School Bus Program that the district didn't qualify on its own because we're not high profile enough. But there's a company that's called Highbridge Consultants that formed this bid under this grant under the EPA that has enough high profile districts that allowed a district like Scotia to come in with it. So to be high profile, it's a poverty situation, and you must buy at least 15 electric buses. We're able to get under this grant with 5 and have a pretty good shot at maybe getting this. And what it awards you is $250,000 towards the $350,000 price of an electric bus. That would leave the local share at $100,000, which is a little less than we put in typically in a bus prop per bus. We're doing about $150K now when we replace a bus. This does not obligate the board. We can pull out if we're fortunate to get awarded. So I would never do something that tied the board or the superintendent. But I had to move on this. It was a lot of work that came quick. And we'll know in February of 2024 if we are awarded the 5 buses. At that point, then we'll come to you and have a strategy of coming up the local share, which could be going to the voters in May with a bus purchase reserve, that we could fund that through the voters and the board approval, then pull it out to cover the local share when the 5 buses come a year and a half later. We also have to turn in 5 buses as part of it. So Clara worked really hard on this, and we're not typically going with the 5 that are 100,000 or body work. It's the ones that would closely mirror what the electric bus would be doing. So we'd still have a bus prop for the wear and tear of the older buses probably this May. But a year from May, we'll have another one, probably go after the local share for the electric buses. The other side of this, which isn't part of this grant, is $800,000 of transformation of our facility for the electrical load. So we're going to work with Transpar and partner with National Grid, and National Grid could cover 90% of the $800,000. National Grid's already sent me a letter thanking us for wanting to do this. Again, we're not tied to this, but we'll go after the money to mitigate the local share. So again, by 2027, I believe the governor said no more diesel buses you can purchase, and by 2035, we have to go electric. So we'll start the process and see if we can get in the pond on this and see how it works.
Are the buses that we turn in, are they repurposed or are they demolished or sold?
They're auctioned off.
Auctioned off.
Yep. And we could do the same with these too. But just wanted to give you a heads up what we're working on. And again, you'll make the ultimate decision, not me. Just wanted to we can get the federal money.
I appreciate you looking at those grants where you can get saved.
Now you can accept my reports.
Awesome job, Bruce. Thank you as always.
I had a quick question.
Sure.
So, do we have enough data yet for the school bus, for the electric buses, the turnover rate yet or no?
It's a great question. So the good news is Burnt Hills has ordered 4 already. They're going to have theirs probably in the winter or next spring. Well, let's see how they do. Because they're Good question. No, we don't.
I think Shenandoah ordered a bunch as well,
Yes,
too.
yep.
That was approved past year.
The only local district first in the foray was Bethlehem, and they got a lot of nice CERTA money, I think $1 million or something. So I'm going to get Clara to go over there because they're having their problems with them, but they do have them. And their board wanted to go all electric on every new bus, I think 2 years ago. And they just got them in about a year ago, right, Claire? Yeah. So you'll be the first to know.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Item number 10, a motion to approve the distance learning classroom rental agreement with BOCES, please.
I make a motion that we approve the distance learning classroom rental agreement with BOCES as submitted.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Motion on item number 11 to approve the revised 23-24 cell phone allowance.
I move that we approve the revised 2023-2024 cell phone allowance.
Thank you. Thank you both. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Motion for item number 12 to approve the revocable license agreement between Scotia-Glenville Central School District, Scotia-Glenville Softball, and Scotia-Glenville Junior Tartans Incorporated.
I'll motion to approve the revocable license agreement between the Scotia-Glenville Central School District and the Scotia-Glenville League ASA Incorporated and the Junior Tartans Incorporated, Scotia-Glenville Junior Tartans, as stated.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Emily. Discussion.
Yes, I am going to be voting against this because this particular license agreement is to amend a May 10, 2021 agreement. And we don't have I don't have the May 21, 2021 agreement to be able to see what exactly has been amended from the original agreement. So I don't feel it's fiscally responsible to then vote for this when I don't know what the amendments are for.
Any other questions or discussions? All right, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed
I'm opposed.
or abstain? So moved. Thank you. All right, moving on. Item number 13, to request an overnight field trip for our girls swimming team to Watkins Glen, New York.
Can we do 13 and 14 together or no?
We could, but we could separate them to give them both recognition.
Let's separate them then.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the request for the overnight field trip for the varsity girls swimming and diving team to Watkins Glen, New York as submitted.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on 13? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone oppose or abstain? So moved. Now motion for item number 14, overnight trip for our French club to Quebec City, Canada.
I'll make a motion to request for overnight field trip for the high school French club to Quebec on February 17 and February 20th as submitted.
Thank you. Second.
As a former French major who cannot speak much French anymore, I second it.
Any discussions? favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. Thank you. All right, the next three we can group together. So if we can get a motion for resolutions 15 to accept and appropriate a gift from Ann and David Sturman in memory of Rob Clemens, to accept an appropriate gift donation from Pamela Hodge to the Fine Arts Department, and to accept an appropriate gift donations from NYSTEC to the Lincoln Elementary.
I'll motion to accept an appropriate gift and donation from Ann and David Sturman in memory of Rob Clemens, and to accept the appropriate gift and donation from Pamela Hodge to the Fine Arts Department, and to accept the appropriate gift and donation from NYSTEC to Lincoln Elementary.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Motion item number 18, resolution to increase the repair reserve fund.
Could we put up 18, 19, 20, 21 together? These are all increases?
Yeah, we can
All
do
right,
that. Yep.
Then I
absolutely.
move to increase the repair reserve fund, increase the tax certiorari reserve fund, and increase the TRS contribution reserve fund.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you both. Drew went over this already. Does anybody have any other questions or discussion on this one? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Motion for resolution 21 for the school bus stop arm enforcement program.
I'll make a motion for school bus stop arm enforcement program.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Emily. Excuse me. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Motion for communications.
I'll motion to move communications, staffing 1 through 34, students with disabilities, now we get there, and routine business 24A.
That's a lot. Second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on any of that?
I have a question about, why doesn't the Pride Club get a stipend?
I'm sorry, what was it? Who?
Are we, how far down did we go? You're all the way through 26, right?
I went all the way to 34.
Okay, so the stipends,
So we're looking at number 27.
Thank you. Pride
And,
Club by Christy Rosa, no stipend.
I mean, there's a lot that don't get a stipend, I guess, if I'm,
Correct.
that one jumped out at me because it was, I think,
Typically
under a
because
different,
they are not listed in the teacher's contract,
okay,
where some are. And I think about things, the Dungeons and,
Dungeons and
no,
Dragons.
sorry. Some of the clubs where no one requested through the association for a stipend.
okay. And I did look this over, but scrolling down, I see that there are way more underneath that. Those just, they were clumped together, so I saw those. Also, can we just change I think it's supposed to be Christian athletes, not the Christina athletes,
yes,
unless that's an organization I haven't heard of before.
no.
And I'm curious too how, if this is not a today question, just say so, but how these stipends are determined in terms of, is it, somebody says, well, it's this many hours, so the stipend would be about this much, or it just looks like some of them are very, very generous and some are not, but I don't know the details of that.
If they are new clubs that are being put forward, the association president and I, Sarah Hoffman, work together to come up with a number, and then some of them are again contractual. Athletics is all based on, primarily based on number of hours and competitions, that kind of thing, so there's more of a formula. But I wouldn't disagree, Emily, these are more like how often are people meeting, how often, how many kids are involved, how many advisors are there, those kinds of things. But when we don't have a number, I have a conversation with President Hoffman about it.
And, I'm sorry, just give me 1 second here. I thought there was a drama club advisor that was getting a lot more than the other drama club advisors, but now I don't know where I saw that. Yeah, drama club advisor, Michael Camello, $818. And then down below are 2 other drama club advisors for $549. Is he,
Contractual.
okay.
And the one spelling was in item 26.
Thank you.
Fellowship of Christina Athletes.
Oh, yep. Thank you.
Anything else? If not, we'll vote on that with those spelling correction on that one. So, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Or abstain? So moved. Routine business. Letter B, payroll warrants. Any questions on A70? A71. Going into this year, A1, A5. All right. Any questions on check warrants? A67, A69, H18 for this school year, A3, or H1? So moved. Any questions on the bid? Drew, did you want to say anything about this, the bid? This one? Yeah.
So, thank you for entertaining a late agenda item. We were able to go out a second time for a scoreboards, one for the middle school backfield where the football, girls softball is, and then also high school baseball. So the base bid was the scoreboard from the middle school. The alternate was the high school baseball. We were able to, the second time, accept a bid, the base bid for the middle school scoreboard. That's what's in front of you today. And we're using CARES Act money to fund it. So we'll put something out there that's good for those junior varsity and modified players.
Beautiful. Anyone have any questions on that for Drew? So moved. All right. Other business. Anyone have any other business?
I'd like to cancel the meeting on August 28th. As has been our practice, we're awful close to the opening there and scurrying quite a bit. And then I wanted to share with the board that I spoke with Pam this afternoon. She thinks she's going to get released and sent home tomorrow. So she thanks folks for being kind and thinking about her and reaching out.
Anyone have any
That's all I have.
other business?
Can you just clarify that we're canceling why we would cancel the meeting?
We're so close to the opening, we typically cancel that meeting, and we do have a number of folks who can't be here.
That's typically why the first meeting in August is pretty
Packed.
hefty. And this year, with the way that the second meeting is the 14th, it pushes that second meeting right up to Labor Day or close to it.
I know what I wanted to ask you. I think I asked you the same question last year in this same point in the meeting. Will there ever be a way for board members to teleconference into me? I think we said we would have to have a policy, but something like Pam being able to join us, or
She couldn't vote. She could have watched the live stream.
okay,
But no, at this point, that board members need to be present.
And is that an us policy or is that a state thing?
That's my understanding through our attorneys.
Okay.
Under the open meetings law, I believe.
So other business, I was chatting with Susan today about a few different things. Yeah, on and off all day. And then, so I sat and closed my door, which means no one can bother me in my office. And I kind of thought about a conversation that Emily and I had earlier on. So I jotted down, whiteboard as I call it, some ideas. And what I proposed to Susan that we do in kind of shaping what we talked about a little bit is that I don't know if any of us have met Julia yet. She was Bob Hanlon's replacement for our social media, for our website. I think in the whole, the community knows who most of us are, some of us more than others. But I think it's a good idea that if we do with her as silly as it sounds, a meet the board, and it can be a one-on-one, it can be one board member a week, it can be questions that they come up with, we come up with, why did you want to be on the board, what are your greatest accomplishments, something like that, and then that be done on our Facebook page, because there still is some people that look at Facebook, and obviously our school website, it could even go out in an email. So I kind of was thinking about that after we spoke, and then, like I said, whiteboard a little bit. So I ran that by Susan. She's going to talk with Julia, and then we'll report back to everybody if everybody is on page and on par with that, so to speak. Beautiful. Any other business?
Kind of going on that, could we add, I know we have the board meetings on the webpage, but we used to post it on Facebook, maybe now we can add it to this Instagram, like, hey, this Monday we've got a board meeting. Even use the new square to do that, just to kind of give a heads up to people.
Absolutely.
That'd be great, thanks.
If no other business, I will open up the second hearing and privilege of the floor. If at this time anybody would like to address the board, please just state your name and address and adhere to our 5-minute policy. Going once, going twice. All right. In that case, I will close the hearing and privilege of the floor and thank everybody. Does anyone have to go into executive session for any reason? No. If not, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll look to adjourn.
Thank you, Kim Talbot. And a second. What does everyone wants to stay tonight? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain?